in Afghanistan worth it? It's a question which has been repeatedly asked over the last week.
And charities are saying that they've seen an increase in calls from veterans since the Taliban seized control of Afghanistan. And they warn that this type of rhetoric is having a damaging effect on the mental health of ex-servicemen and women. Carol Betteridge is Head of Clinical and Medical Services at Help for Heroes and is also a Royal Navy captain who served in Afghanistan. And Rachel Phillips served 3 tours of Afghanistan and is now studying to be a priest and said she cried when the Taliban took over Kabul. So just an indication there of what it means at this time. Good morning to both of you. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. Carol, coming to you first, because obviously, you know, it's been in the news constantly, hasn't it, since all of this developed, and it has brought it back for a lot of people who served there over the years and who are now obviously struggling because of that. You've seen an increase in calls for Help for Heroes. Just what are the sort of issues that are people finding it hard to deal with because of what's happening?
Well, I think it's important to say how proud we are of our armed forces, our veterans and those that are serving in Afghanistan at the moment. But as you've said, it's in the media, it's on the radio, wherever we look. And it's difficult to avoid those images, but that's not what we advise. What we try and do is help veterans, give them the tools to be able to deal with the anxiety and the anger and the frustration they might be feeling today because of what they're seeing. So that's what we're trying to do through our support of our psychological, our physical health, and all the other services within Help for Heroes, is to help them deal with what they see and the memories that might bring back.
Because there were those who, having gone through traumatic times when they served in Afghanistan, put it in perspective and were able to say, you know, they may have lost colleagues, they may have been injured themselves, but actually it was the things that they were achieved while they were there. That was what kept them going. That's sort of, you know, been their motivation and their strength ever since. And there are those that feel, obviously, because of what's happened, it feels like all of that has been undone, and that's kind of shifted their world in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult. You know, we all deal with anger and anxiety and frustration in different ways. I feel that we did really make a difference. You know, we helped with infrastructure, with education, with healthcare, and improved their standard of living. And hopefully, in some way, that will continue. I personally ran a hospital in Afghanistan for 7 months. I had a fantastic team of medics. We saw 3,000 casualties in that 7 months, including Afghan civilians. And I think we really did a good job, and we saved lives and limbs. So for me, that time will never be wasted because we made a difference. But we also understand that others might think of that differently. And that's why we want them to reach out, to talk to families, to talk to other veterans. And if they need professional help, to come to us or other organisations that are offering that support at the moment, because everybody's experience is different.
And Rachel, what is it that you've been experiencing? You had 3 tours of Afghanistan. PTSD, most of us don't really know what that is, actually, in a day-to-day lived experience. What is it for you?
I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder after my first tour of Afghanistan in 2008 and 2009. And the years in between there've been ups and downs. There've been periods when I've been absolutely fine and able to function and cope normally, but also times when that hasn't been possible, and it's really been a very difficult time in my life. So yeah, of course, the events of the last few weeks, and particularly over the last week, have really brought back this chapter of my life, which I had very carefully tried to keep closed, and have done a lot of work on leaving behind, really. And I think that my focus on Afghanistan when I first left the country was bordering on obsessive. I was on the internet every day trying to find updates from the particular village that I served. And I stopped doing that in time, and then really tried hard to not think about Afghanistan anymore. And I moved on, and my life has moved on significantly, and I feel in a much better place. But obviously what's happening at the moment is sort of bringing it all back to the fore. And I've noticed that much milder symptoms have started resurfacing.
What are those? And I know you've written about what PTSD is like. I found it very moving, actually, when I read it. Would you mind reading a little bit of it and just explaining which of the symptoms have come back?
Yeah, certainly. So this was a piece that I wrote, that I was asked to write by the Armed Forces Christian Union back in 2016, just to help people understand a bit about what it's like sort of firsthand. And this is part of it. It was just the bathroom door slamming in the breeze, but I was ready. I was ready to hit the floor and take cover, or fight, or run, or whatever. I was ready for anything. I've never felt more ready. And now my mind has caught up, and I realize it was just the door, and I feel a lot of other things as the fear subsides. I feel silly. I feel ashamed. I feel sad. I feel sorry for myself. I feel angry at myself. I sometimes feel angry at the army too.
It's really stark, isn't it, when you put it like that? And Carol, what is it that you are, and both of you actually, the sorts of conversations that are being had in, you know, programmes like this and in other places and all the articles in the newspaper is what was the last 20 years for? And I suppose we can ask that in a way that doesn't affect us, you know, when we stop talking about it. But actually it has what is commonly known as a triggering effect, doesn't it, for those of you who have been there, and Tom Tugendhat spoke about that quite powerfully in the Commons. Carol, to you first. What is it that veterans would like to hear about those 20 years being said?
I will answer that question, but the first thing I want to say is thank you, Rachel, for sharing that. It's really important that people talk about what's happening to them and the feelings that they have. So thank you so much for that, because what you will do is encourage other veterans to come forward and share that. And I hope, you know, reach out for help if they need that. So thank you so much. What I would say is that what we're trying to do is support those veterans. And I think the question, was it worth it? Was it a waste of time? Is actually unhelpful, because whatever you did in Afghanistan, wherever you are in the armed forces, we always try and have an effect. I think we all had an effect. We did that mission. We tried to support the Afghan people and show them what a different way of life might look like. And I really hope that they will continue to be able to do that. So what we would like to do is let all our veterans and armed forces personnel know we're proud. We've launched a campaign which is hashtag still our heroes, because they still are our heroes. I want them to feel proud. I know they'll feel angry, but I want them to know that everything they did for us, we feel was worthwhile, and to try and cope with these difficult times and ask for help.
And Rachel, coming to you, I mean, yeah, to echo what's been said there, because what you read out and what we read here about what you'd written, it was an extraordinary account of what you go through. And I think it really will bring it home to people what it means day in, day out, and exactly the effect it's having on you. You, I know, were a big advocate for women's rights. I know that, you know, you were pleased with the steps that had been made forward. When you look ahead, how worried are you about the situation there and what that means for what's being gained?
Extremely worried on a daily basis. It's particularly the women and the children that I think about in Afghanistan. All of the progress they've made in their own personal lives, the jobs that they hold, the education they've had, the hopes and dreams that they have begun to have, has all just been seemingly, as far as we can tell, completely taken from under them, and they're left in a position of either having to try and immediately get on a plane and leave their lives behind and start again somewhere that they know nothing about, and all of the difficulties of arriving in a country where you don't understand the language or the culture, and those who are left behind who couldn't make it out, and I have no idea what the future will look like for them. So that's on my mind a lot. But I'm very lucky to be part of an amazing group of women here in the UK called the Sandhurst Sisterhood, which have been such a huge source of support, not only to me and other veterans and other serving female officers, but also a direct help to people who are in Afghanistan right now trying to get out. The women in this group are incredible in the efforts they've made, phone calls on the ground in the midst of all the chaos. getting people the right side of the wire and onto planes has just been phenomenal. The things that these women can do to get other women and families and men out of the country has been amazing.
That's good to hear. And thank you to both of you for joining us this morning and talking about it from your personal perspectives and opening up like that. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.